know I'm freestyling this, but coming later on, we got the Heidi Duckler Dance crew that's going to be doing some super, super magical, awesome things and showing us really, really cool. But to open up the show tonight, we have on cello Isaac, who lives in Los Angeles. His main focus is cello performance and composition. He's been playing cello for 17 years. He studied cello performances at Cal State, Northridge. He's been playing in mini ensembles over years. He's currently teaching privately through Zoom too. You can holler at the homie. You know what I'm saying? Teaching privately at various institutions in Southern California. He currently teaches cello, piano, guitar, violin, accordion, magic tricks, how to make a proper peanut butter and jelly sandwich, how to grill a grilled cheese without burning it. Isaac has played in many orchestras and chambers and groups through the years. He has also played with many successful bands, including rock stars. Just name people that you like. He's probably played with them. We're so excited to have him open up the show. Everyone, please give a digital round of applause for Isaac.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So dope. Isaac, thank you so much. Can everybody please give it up one more time for Isaac, y'all. Super, super cool. Doing loop pedal stuff with the cello. What the heck? I ain't never seen it, but I just heard it and felt it in my body. That's the way all that made me feel just now. I was like, so much dopeness going on. I am ready to keep the show going. But one more time for Isaac, y'all. Please, please show some love. Isaac, check out that chat because there's a lot of cool things. All right. I'm ready to get into this. What is happening today at ArtShare is we have the Heidi Duckler Dance take over. It is going down, but let me tell you a little bit about Heidi Duckler Dance. They create place-based performances that transform non-traditional spaces, providing learning opportunities and engaging diverse communities, and that belief that the arts can change our vision of the world and of ourselves. Tonight, they present a short film inspired by one of their live performances with Carlo as artist and science designer, Jessica as dancer and choreographer, and Isaac, who we just heard, as musician and instructor. Everyone, please enjoy the wonderful performance from the Heidi Duckler Dance Takeover.
Arranging them at her pleasure and bodily pleasure. And her only way of knowing it was living it. Only thus could she connect herself to the past of which she lacked the memory self. Stripped of amory, she was living her life simply without ecstasy. If I had time. However, she didn't know what was happening to her, and her only way of knowing it was to live out of itself. And that religion, stripped of amory and wish, is living her life simply without ecstasy.
5 minutes.
Wow. Wow. What a journey. My goodness. So, so cool. I'm going to invite a couple creators to this project to be able to have a quick conversation. I want to talk about Carlo, is the experience and space designer working in experimental formats on live performances, events, and films before illuminating in Chandler with Heidi Duckler. He was a science designer for the industry's Sweetland at LA State Historic Park. Give it up for Carlo joining us.
Hi,
I also
everyone.
want to leave room for Jessica, who is one of the dance and choreographers, or the dance and choreographer for this incredible project. Jessica is a Los Angeles-based dancer, choreographer, performance artist, and educator and curator. Jessica, welcome as well. So nice to meet both of you. Such an honor to see and share your incredible work. I want to just leave space.
Though, just all the performers created their work. So it's not just me. I'm not trying to snatch nobody's crown off. We all came together and made this thing together.
Thank you. Keep me honest. Keep it right. You know what I'm saying? This is a short film based on live performances, right? So like everything in here was kind of Zoom specific. Can you tell us like what inspired you to book and process and turning into live performances on Zoom?
Jessica, do you want to speak first?
I can. I will say I've worked with Heidi since I graduated Cal Arts in 2006, on and off. We've been here. And she has always kind of, we've done site-specific work for like a long time. We performed at City Hall and just like all these different like architects' homes, like just wherever she's like, I think a dance would be nice here. We just go there and we make some stuff, and the team is always collaborative. So the process for me, I think this was my first Zoom performance. I've done a couple since then, but this was my first one. And this is definitely the one that was like the most multi-layered. There's just like a lot of moving parts to keep it, to make it happen. And for me, it's just kind of like I've had this relationship with her and her work for so long that it was just like, oh yeah, this is just another site, right? This is a site that we're in, and it's a site that with people like Carlo we're building as well. So normally we hop into a space and it's like, well, whatever they got in here, this is what we're working with. But being able to have Carlo and Isaac, creating in their space and then adding it to our our collective space, it just turned Zoom into like a different thing that isn't Zoom. So it's almost like we built like a different thing. So it didn't feel, it felt like Zoom was another performer in the show, or Zoom was like, it was more than the set design, it was more than sound design. It really became like its own kind of thing. So yeah, easy breezy to say yes. Had a good old time.
I love it. I love it. It was a really creative way to approach working on this platform for sure. Carlo, I want to talk to you about, like, you are literally an experience and space creator, which I love that title. I think that's the dopest thing ever. What was this like? Like, did you have an idea going into it? You're like, this is what I want it to look like. Or was it like, these are the tools I have, this is what I'm going to work with? Tell us, what was that like for you?
So before, we had planned a whole production that was going to happen at the Wallace Annenberg, like as an actual site-specific piece, and we were designing something for that. And that's usually where my work lives, is in like actual space. I make like 3-dimensional spaces and installations. And then the pandemic hit, and then a week after, Heidi calls me like, hey, like how do we move forward with the project without having space? And that's when the work actually started for me, because knowing Heidi and having worked with her for a while now, like all of her work is site specific, but we didn't have a site, So we had this dramaturgy meeting and talking about what the piece meant and how do we do this piece. And Magdalena, who played the lead, Virginia, who was also functioning as dramaturg at the time. Like she had mentioned, or she had proposed this idea that maybe we should use Zoom because the themes of the show, like regarding isolation and wanting connection, was really like vibing with this current situation of being mediated by technology, right? And like we're trying to connect with each other through this platform of Zoom, but there is always this sense of isolation because we're always mediated by a computer. We're not in the same space, right? And then we had talked about maybe we just really need to think about Zoom as a site like on its own. Because before we were dealing with site specific as physical space, but really broadening our definition of what that means to include digital space as well. And that got really exciting because we didn't have a lot of examples of what a Zoom performance was like. And I was like, okay, Heidi, we should absolutely do this. We should do this in a month because we didn't know when the pandemic was going to end and we wanted it to be relevant to the current time, right? It had a time, we felt like the piece had a timestamp within the pandemic. And because we didn't know what it was, what that time limit was, that we kind of set this 1 month goal, which was like really crazy actually. We didn't know what we were dealing with until we were doing it. And yeah.
There's a lot of building the airplane while in the air.
Yes, exactly. We didn't know we were gonna crash it. We didn't, but truly like me and the other visual designer, her name is Cami Lee. She's a video designer, and she and I collaborated on how to portray these different contexts that Heidi and the group wanted to portray, because I think contrast was super important for them, like being isolated in a family setting or being isolated in a city setting. But how do we communicate that without being super literal? And that was like where the fun began, like collaging. And so overall, it was kind of just an experiment. It was for me, it was also my very first time designing for the Zoom format. And now I design in this format all the time.
and I can imagine that comes with like hella challenges, right? Like you're trying to create something that ideally you have an image for on paper or in your head or something. What are the things you had to like just let go of and be like, this isn't, I can't, that's not going to happen. That's not what this thing is going to be. I have to let go of that idea of it. But also like dig into like what some of those challenges were. Maybe not both just like physically, but like we can't inherit the same space. We can't be in that same space technologically, but also like emotionally. And this is for both of you and Jessica and Isaac. What are some of those challenges physically and emotionally that you were going through while creating this project? And what are the things you had to let go of to be like, okay, this is what I need to be able to make this thing happen?
Yeah, I mean, personally, it's the absence of physical space that was the most difficult to overcome. Like I am a world builder in space, and not having community in the same space as you was also really hard to handle, and that made the work really difficult. But then I just had to embrace the spirit of the company, which is just, make it work. This is what you have. How do you handle that? And like we used collage as an aesthetic because it was super fast, you could just overlay images on top of one another. And we did that with the dancers. Himeria, who was one of the performers in this piece, she had proposed this idea of layering videos of performers on top of each other to make it look like we were all in the same space, but not really. And it looked like this really cool play on scale and collage. And that was like, that's how we overcame it. Or at least I personally felt.
So
I would definitely have to agree that, I mean, for me, because Carlo was more in the beginning of it, way more like pre-production, right? So as a performer, I'm coming in after a couple of things have been figured out. So because it was so new, I don't think I had to let go of it. And I wasn't part of like the pre-production. I don't think I had to let go of anything. It was kind of just like, all right, well, let's try it. Like it was more like this feeling of just like exploration and, well, let's try this and let's try that and let's try this, versus feeling like I had to let go. I do feel like not being able to collaborate with performers in actual space is the weirdest shit in the world. Like, it's just so hard to be like, you know, there's something that happens when you have people in a space where you start to vibrate off of each other and you start to like riff off of like other people's ideas. It's difficult to happen in the Zoom world, especially if you haven't collaborated before, you know? And so that's one thing. But then it's also like, you know, the issue of trying to create movement in these little boxes, right? In these little boxes that are specific to your device, right? Like, so it depends if you have a phone, if you have a laptop, if you have an iPad, if you have something from 2011 or you have something from 2020, like it all changes the way something's gonna look and what the capabilities of your device is. So that becomes like a challenge in the site where it's like, okay, like how do we navigate getting the most cohesive thing out of everybody's different types of devices that also has a conversation with like privilege and who can have what, you know, for whatever amount of money. And then you have the issue of just like in my own house, which has been the Zoom. I mean, in the beginning of this meeting, you saw me like trying to move. I'm like, where do I put the light's weird now. I gotta move. Like your home becomes this site that you're trying to negotiate through your device, but also collaborate with other people and also move way smaller than you're used to. It's like a lot of things to just kind of like explore and play with. And I'll say that the team was so dope that it wasn't something that felt like everything was figure outable. I'll say that. Every challenge that came up or every like, well, what do we do with this? What do we do? You know, everything was figure outable. It was dope.
So cool.
I forgot what the question was.
I mean, I think you answered it perfectly. That was all part of the question, for sure.
Yeah, you're talking.
And, you know, like, I love this idea of like your home space becomes this presentable thing that you're having to do. I never made my bed ever in my life growing up as a child ever, but now every day I find myself making my bed because this has then inherently become my office. Right. Where I'm doing all my activities, right? And so, yeah, it's super wild. And I think, you know, you definitely like created some of the background stuff and visuals for what you were doing within those individual spaces. I think we have a short video we can show that might, you know, kind of spice up a little bit more conversation. So I'm going to pass it to Tony and let us drop into a little clip that we're going to check out some more of y'all's work.
It was definitely a challenge to make this piece on Zoom. I had no idea how difficult it would be. We started, you know, when we're in quarantine, working with Zoom and realizing that there's so much movement possibility and expression, emotion that can come through the screen.
Site-specific work, I've been doing this for now 3 years, and the fun part of it is how to respond to that space. And now we're on Zoom. It's just another site.
Once we got to talking about recalibrating our thinking into that space, that's when the work piece.
Maybe we can Photoshop something on top of the image too, you know.
Like, is it possible to do video, like moving video as a background?
We can add video. This is awesome.
That's really interesting, Gabby.
Oh, and that's cool.
Like,
right?
We could really create digital spaces.
For the layering, you needed to film yourself first through Zoom, and then that film, you would download that, pass it on to the next dancer,
kind of had to fit yourself in the right spot and also know the choreography and do it at the right time.
Some of the artists had never performed together, and we were all in quarantine. So the only way they met each other or practiced together was on the screen. The rehearsals were intense. Sometimes they were very long, 9 hours, 10 hours at a time. You're highlighted. You are still Madam Highlight. Oh, I'm highlighted. Well, you're highlighted. Hey, I'm highlighted. Oh, highlighted.
We had that trust immediately to do this scene that's where you have a dominating older brother, very dark and very difficult.
I imagine that she could place herself in between, and then when he comes forward, I just think like it's like pretty evil to look straight at the camera, you know? So I was just feeling that moment there.
When we performed it live, had never been that intense. It was incredibly powerful and scary.
Rest. Really, however, she didn't know what was happening to her, and the only way of knowing it was living it itself.
I think the context of today's situation really lended to understanding our protagonist, Virginia's state of mind. It's as though there's a wall between her and the world. And with this project, there is a wall.
The biggest challenge, I think, was that if we just wanted to record this, we could have done that. And it would have just been a recording. But we wanted it to be live.
Not having visuals to be able to tell people, come onto the stage at this time, and having to do it remotely, I felt like an octopus, but all of the mistakes seemed to make sense when the actual performance came together.
A lot of people watched it from all over the world. Even people woke up in the middle of the night to see it.
My close family is in Ohio, and this was such a fun way to invite everybody into my live world versus them just having to see the video.
That is another thing I heard as feedback from audience. Each scene subverted Zoom in a different way. And I think that often we get certain tools that are supposed to work in a certain way. But when we can connect with our inner child, which is really, I think, what an artist is, we think, oh, what if we use it this way? Well, what if we do it that way?
Let's let those credits roll for a few more seconds. Of course, now I talked into it. It's all good. Wanted to give love and credit to everybody that created it.
I tried to go back to the screen share, but it wouldn't let me after I ended it. I will post the video on ArtShare's website, so if you go onto our site, you will be able to see the video and the behind-the-scenes video.
Wow. Carlo, Jessica, after seeing that, what are your initial feelings?
I love it. I had never used Zoom in that way before, and we discovered so many possibilities and formats of collaboration that I never thought I would ever have to enter in my career. But and yes, what Heidi was saying was that it was super challenging. Some of the rehearsals were super long, but it was always inspiring. Every time that we were in a rehearsal, there were new ideas coming in, and like there was just this willingness to participate and discover what was possible in that format. That, I mean, a lot of times I take for granted when I'm working in physical space.
That's real. And
so it's really nice to be reminded that there are things to be discovered still in a generation where you're so exposed to so much information and inspiration, and yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh my goodness. And 9-hour sessions. Wow. I don't think I could play video games for 9 hours. I mean, like, I don't think I could watch Netflix for 9 hours. I don't think I could do anything. I don't even think I could sleep for 9 hours. Like,
I don't know how to do it either. I would usually bop out after like 3 hours and like, I'm sorry, like, it's on you. Good luck.
here are
And
my notes.
They did it. They did it, you know?
So cool. I wanna pose a deeper question in a way. You know, the work that y'all were using is, you know, often described as like deeply anguished, in search of the heart, human existence, and the unbearable weight of solitude. You know, do you think this current state of the world made both her work and your pieces more realistic and or accessible?
Possibly for some audience members, possibly. Um, it's I think that everybody deals with stuff in such a different way that for me, like, I had been traveling right before the lockdown happened in LA, and for me it was like the first time that I had to sit down and figure stuff out in a, like, how to exist in a different way. And it was so much of, again, what was going on with the piece. I feel like for me, if I would have watched it, and especially, and how I feel about being a performer in it is that it kind of ignited the figure it out energy, and like the kind of teamwork energy of doing the best that we can with what we have, and connecting in the best way that we can, and exploring different ways to connect rather than feeling super alone. What are the ways that we can connect feels like something that I can identify with a bit more. I'm not saying that other people probably weren't like, yes, isolation, we're going through it. But for me, it definitely felt more like, when I look back at it, when we just watched it right now, it just reminded me of how nice it was to meet all these people, how nice it was to collaborate with all these people, how nice it was, that moment of, now you're highlighted, I'm highlighted, you're highlighted, I'm highlighted. That moment of like, holy shit, we could put a video in the background. Like, those exciting moments triggered memories that were like, oh, we can do this. Oh, if you change your background to something more clear, then the video is going to look better. And if you use your phone, this is going to be an issue. And just troubleshooting stuff, it feels like that can be carried to other parts of our lives as audience members and as performers, where it's like, okay, I can't go here, eat there, hang out with these people in person, but there are other ways that I can develop and explore to have like deep connection and feel more expansive during this time, rather than staying too much. It's not the way it used to be, so everything's terrible. Explore!
To infinity and beyond.
Totally.
Wow, yeah. So cool. And we're getting to the point in our conversation where we're gonna transition back to our good friend Isaac. And I actually want to pose this question to Isaac, because I think the same things that we were just talking about the kind of the anguish and the sorrow, I think the music you added to this really just seemed to complement what the choreographers with these backgrounds, even like some of the colors, I could hear the colors in what you were creating. What was that like? Was that intentional? Were you just kind of like freestyle? And tell us what that process was like.
Well, yeah, when they described the piece to me, it had those undertones, the relationship between the siblings and all the stuff that they're going through. And then I think during some of the meetings, we also talked a little bit about, how the coronavirus situation relates to that, how people are being isolated, and that did factor in a little bit as I was writing, and particularly as I was watching the performers and seeing what they were doing and seeing the backgrounds and seeing the story. I think when I first heard it, I didn't quite understand how dark it was. And as we were doing it, I was like, wow, okay, yeah, this is pretty dark. And fortunately, that's just my forte. I love dark music, so I think it just kind of worked out naturally. Like when I play music in general, it's usually a bit more atmospheric, soundtracky, and a little bit heavier. So it worked out pretty well in that way. Yeah, it was really interesting experience.
It was really awesome. It kind of reminded me of like some of like the Joker soundtrack theme, I was like ready to like.
Okay. I still haven't seen that, but I heard it's really good. I'll have to check it out.
I can tell you the work they do with the cello, they're on to something. But aside from all that, so awesome. Thank you, Carlo. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Heidi Duckler Dance. This has been absolutely phenomenal and totally on brand to what we're trying to create and offer our audience here at ArtShare. So we really appreciate you joining in. Isaac, are you willing to play us out for some last bit of stuff? Make sure y'all check out the links. We're going to be adding links to all the chats, to all the things that's going on, where you can find more stuff from Jessica, more stuff from Carlo, more stuff from Isaac, and more stuff from Heidi Duckler. This is really, really cool. Let's end out on this music. I'm loving it. And I'm Matthew Cuban, your host. Tony, you're a rock star. Cheyenne, your hair. I want to have your hair. You're so great. You're so beautiful, Cheyenne. I love it. I love y'all. Isaac, take us home.
Okay, thank you for having us.
Woo! So dope. Oh my gosh. Man, what a wonderful evening. And thank you for spending it with us, y'all. I am Matthew Cuban Hernandez, your host for the evening. Heidi Duckler Dance, so dope, joining us, taking over today. So much love to Carlo Love to Jessica. Love to Isaac once again. Cheyenne, our fearless ED, making it happen, making these great things happen. Shouts out to all the ArtShare board members and artists who are a part of everything that's going on. Thank you, Tony, for putting together such a badass production of great art. We're going to be going bi-weekly from here on out, which means next week we will not have a show, but the week after that, we will have a show, and we'll be here, and it'll be crazy, and you should be here too, and you should get your friends to come, and then your friends should come, but not that one friend who talks too much, because it's not about talking, it's about listening, but bring that other friend who likes to support and has a lot of money and loves Venmo. Bring all those people. We'll be here with our friends, with artists, giving you a great show. I'm Matthew Cuban Hernandez. I'm your host, and love y'all. Be good to yourselves, and see you around.
Matt, I'm gonna miss seeing you every Thursday night. It's gonna be weird.
You taught me. We can FaceTime.
Don't threaten me.
Hey, I'm all about plotting world domination.
That was so lovely. Thank you so much, Jessica, Isaac, Carlo. It was so cool to see the behind the scenes of that production. That was masterful.
Thank you.
I'm signing off.
Hey, everyone. Thank you, everybody, for coming. If you want to watch the video again, we're uploading it to ArtShare's site tomorrow. So just Google ArtShare, head to our website, and you'll be able to watch it as many times as you want. And please follow these performers. They're amazing. And if you want their Venmo, just ask them for it. Give them some money, whatever. That's awesome.
Instant karma. You know what I'm saying? Always good to have it on your side.
Amen. All right. Bye.
Love to you all. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Heidi.
And was now waiting for him to come home to her.